Yay. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back to Dyslexia Coffee Talk. And I'm so excited that I have my friend Tiffany James of Nessy joining us today. Welcome, Tiffany.
Hi, so nice to see you and thank you for having me.
Of course. I'm so excited that you wanted to come on because I really wanted to have the chance to talk about Nessy and all of the really important work that you and Mike are doing for all of our dyslexic children and the benefit to literacy across the board. But tell us about the Nessy platform. I mean, we'll get to the film, but so I don't want to say what was the impetus for Nessy, but yeah, but what is Nessy's service to the community? How does Nessy help our community?
Well, Nessy is it is assistive technology really for teachers. It's because it enables a teacher who may or may not have been trained to teach a child with the science of reading methodology, may or may not have that knowledge to get that kind of instruction to kids, directly to kids. It's individualized. It automatically adjusts to the student's needs, and we'll keep working with them until they master specific skills. Because as we both know, there's really good evidence, and we know how to teach children to read, and it really has to be systematic, and it has to be explicit, and it has to be tailored to each child. And so this presents a real problem for teachers in classrooms that may have 20 or 30 kids with all different needs, and this gets them exactly what they need, individualized.
Oh, wow. And the platform is, your animation work is so fun. I've always wondered, like, how many animators do you even employ? You probably have thousands of animators pulling off.
We don't have thousands. And so years ago, Mike used to do a lot of the artwork, but now we have a team and a creative director, and it's a small team. I think they maybe have, I don't know, maybe 8 of them or something, but they're a really talented team. And working together with, especially with Mike and I, or with Mike and Chris Woodin and the animators, they come up with wonderful ways to teach kids in a funny way that keeps them engaged. I mean, that's what we want to do. You want to use the right kind of systematic, explicit, structured literacy teaching, but you don't want it to be boring. I mean, you want it to keep them engaged, keeping them wanting to come back and learn more and more.
Definitely. And like, what are the various, like, I've had a subscription to the typing service specifically, but you have so many aspects too within Nessy, and we'll get to Chris, but
yeah.
What are the different pieces?
Well, we have our flagship program is really it's the cement that holds everything together. I mean, if a family is going to have one subscription, that's really the one that we definitely recommend that they have, unless they have already mastered kind of those skills and they're already reading very well. It's thousands of worksheets that are printable, but hundreds of lessons that are digital, and it addresses the kids' needs, from the earliest kind of structure synthetic phonics to really multisyllabic, complicated spelling patterns, morphology, vocabulary. I mean, it does get really tough at the end, and a child that sticks with it will get from the beginning to the end and really have a good knowledge of the English language.
Wow. And then Chris, because you brought him up first, Woody, as some people he likes to have some people call him. Yeah. And I know that this was something that all of you were working passionately on prior to COVID, and then of course, COVID. Yeah. But it's coming, it's pending, it's almost here. So let's talk about that.
It's almost here. So for years we've had the Nessy Reading and Spelling program, which I've just described, and then after that we added the Harry Reading program, which is for younger students that are in pre-K or kindergarten, and it kind of brings them up to the Nessy reading and spelling. So, but now we're adding a math component, and Chris Woodin, who is fantastic, brilliant, passionate educator, hilariously funny, just so good with children, is putting his life work into making a Nessy program for mathematics. So it's called Nessy Number Sense, and it's absolutely brilliant. It's going to be, I think, a game changer for lots and lots of people. But it is Chris. You know, a few years ago we approached him. I think it was maybe in Dallas. It was quite a while ago now, maybe 5 years ago. We approached him and started talking to him about it. And then, like you said, it's something we began working on before COVID, and then COVID slowed us down. But we are kind of at the end of it now, where the teaching games are we're testing them and they're ready to go, and the videos are ready to go, and we're filming Chris, because I know that you know Chris and you've interviewed him before. I don't know if you've ever had the opportunity to actually see him working with kids, but he is absolutely hilarious and brilliant.
I'm going to meet him in person this summer when I take my son to Landmark for their high school summer program. But I know that he's not going to be actively teaching, but I'm hoping he might show me his pull system.
Yes, yeah, maybe he will. He is, but we've been there to visit him at Landmark as well. And I'm glad you're going to get the opportunity to do that, because seeing him in this kind of his home environment is another whole element.
Yeah,
but yeah, he's a brilliant guy.
And I can't wait. I'm trying to remember if it was February, March of 2019 or 2020. I want to say it was 2019 when he was in Houston giving a presentation at the local Houston branch of the International Dyslexia Association. And he started talking about Nessy. And I think he had some like very early sketches of just a couple of things that he was able to share. And so, yeah, it's been a while coming, but I'm sure a ton of work goes into that. And of course, the world shutting down for a while definitely didn't help.
Yeah, it does. And we're still a family company. We're still we have a smaller team because we're still family owned and operated company. So we're not one of the big publishing companies that has just tons and tons of resources available to us. So like I said, we have a small team of animators and educators and just office staff and that kind of thing. So it does take a while to get these kind of things done and get them done quickly. But I think it's worked better for us, because it's enabled kind of Chris and Mike to tease out kind of the best parts of Chris's method of teaching, and then really Nessify it to get it to this wonderful point. So it's really a great program.
I personally cannot wait to see it. I'm going to get a subscription just to that part, just so I can like go in and play around and with it myself.
Play with it, yeah.
But let's talk about that, because you said it's a family-owned company, and I know that there's a wonderful story behind Nessy, and that came out in the film Mikal. So let's talk about Mikal. And so let's talk about the birth of Nessy through Mike and his very passionate and amazing mom. So if you don't mind sharing with us that story and how that kind of came about.
Yes, and like you said, it is in the film Mikal. It's Mikal is a story of really a mother's love. It is the story of a passionate advocate mother who didn't know what to do, but she was determined to figure it out and make it happen. I mean, by hook or by crook, she was going to do it. She knew her child was not stupid. She knew that he was really struggling, because he was really struggling. And the school system, and the professionals around her didn't really have any answers for her. They didn't know how to help her, and she is just that kind of woman, as are you, and a lot of the really kind of passionate fiery advocate moms that we know around the world. There's, there are a handful of women out there that mothers out there that are just, they're just not going to take no for an answer, and they are going to figure it out no matter what. It may be something we don't understand. We don't exactly know how we're going to do it, but by golly, we're going to make this thing happen. And that is Pat. I mean, she is someone who I look up to so much. I mean, she is quite a generation before us, isn't she? But she really did this back in the 70s when there was less information and fewer resources. So Mike was struggling terribly struggling, and he left, I think, 4 schools. He was asked to leave 4 schools. He was refusing to go to school refusal, which we hear about a lot, tantrums and, terrible things. He just couldn't read. He couldn't read. And of course, they were trying to teach him with whole language, and he just couldn't do it. It just was, he just couldn't do it. But she knew he was smart. And so she took him to a psychologist who tested his IQ, and it was 147. So that's really, really bright. I mean, that's up in like the 99.6 percentile or something. So he was really smart, but the child still couldn't spell his own name. He was fighting at school. He was just terrible, mental health issues and behavioral problems were happening because of this. And again, this is a story that we hear and we still hear today about this happening to kids. I mean, it's still happening. So she went to the library and she took out every book that they had on dyslexia. She started there, came over, she got some training in the U.S. She got some more training in the UK, and she made herself an expert in dyslexia. She was a math teacher by training, and she was practicing as a math teacher at that point. But she made herself a dyslexia specialist before there were many dyslexia specialists. And Mike, she took him out of school. She said, "I've just got to homeschool him. I've got to teach. Nobody can teach her to read, so I've got to do it." She did. She came up with all of these games and wonderful ways of teaching Mike that kept him engaged. And he went from being at the bottom of the class to going to the very top. And he went all through the rest of his school at the top of his class. And he went on to law school and graduated at the top of his class in law school. He went to art school first and then to law school. And then after law school, he was helping his mom, a nice boy he is, and in summers it is. Because since then, during this time, while he was going through his older school time, Pat kept getting asked over and over again, "Can you help my child? Can you help my child? I have a child like that. Can you help my child?" And so she started bringing people into her house and teaching them at the kitchen table, using her methods and teaching them to read. And again, these methods are methods that are still used today because they're all kind of based on that old Orton-Gillingham type methodology that evolved, started with that Orton-Gillingham. So that systematic, learning phonics, learning the sounds, learning how to blend, all of, really taking language apart, teaching them how it works and putting it back together. So she was teaching him that way. People started coming in, and she eventually opened her own center. She opened her own center. It's still in existence today. It's called the Bristol Dyslexia Center. She later also opened a school called the Belgrave School for Dyslexia. It's still operating today. She's on the board of directors of both of those entities. But so anyway, Mike went and was helping her in the summer. This was the summer after law school, before he was supposed to go to London to go into barrister. The way they do it over here, it's kind of like when a young doctor goes into the hospital and there's an intern. They're a doctor, but they go in and they're being trained by the older doctors or the seasoned doctors, and they have a period where they do that. Well, this is what he was on his way to do in London and in the law. And he was answering the phone for her, and he was so emotionally touched by these parents, mostly mothers, calling up and just crying, absolutely in tears, and describing what was happening to their kids, and it brought it all back to him. And after that summer of reflection, he thought, I think this is what I'm supposed to do. I don't think I'm supposed to be a practicing lawyer. I think this is what I'm supposed to do. So he went back to university again, and then trained as a specialist dyslexia teacher. So he did that as well. And then he wound up working for his mom at the center as a teacher for quite a long time. Pat, meanwhile, was nominated for and then received an OBE, the Order of the British Empire, from Queen Elizabeth. And she was actually presented with that award and medal by the Queen herself. And it's a great story and a great source of pride for our family. Not many people were actually awarded by the Queen herself. Some of them, by other members of the royal family, but she was actually by the Queen herself. So Mike went on from there teaching, and he began to think, gosh, these things are, the way that we're teaching kids to read, it's doing great things, but we're only reaching these kids in Bristol. And we have to be honest that there's a certain type of family that usually can afford to go to a tutoring center like that. So it's people that have either enough money or means to get to, and are also in close enough proximity to get to the center. We're helping them, and we want to help them. But it was something like, I can't remember how many kids they were serving, something, I think it's like 400. They were serving 400 children because there were lots of other teachers working there, and it became quite a large center of 5 stories. So they were helping a lot of kids, but not enough. And not enough kids that maybe their families just couldn't afford that kind of monthly tuition. It was just expensive.
Right.
Because you have to pay the teachers and you have to keep the lights on. So he took what his mom's methods and what the other teachers had added and he had added as a teacher, and he made them digital. And it was back in 1999. He made it digital, and he actually had it on the internet. And schools didn't want to use the internet back then. They wanted it on one of those, round discs that you stick in the side of your computer. So he took it off the internet and put it on discs. And so there's still some of those discs around today. We see them on eBay and things like that from all those years ago. So some people are still using them.
I think I still have a stack that I've had for like 15 years and I've yet to throw away down there.
They're around. They're around. I mean, the program has evolved and changed a lot since then. So we really pride ourselves on following science, and so as things change, we make changes and we improve and improve the program. So it's different than it was back then, but the same kind of basis. So that's what happened, and from there we've gone to like 140 countries. That doesn't mean we have hundreds and hundreds. There may be some countries with just 20 people using it, but mostly English-speaking countries use Nessy. We're in most of the schools in the UK, and a few years ago we went over to the US. I know Houston is a school district where you are, where they have a very large subscription of Nessy. So there are a lot of Houstonians.
Yeah.
A lot of Houstonians using Nessy. Along the way, we realized that, you get it right. From my friend Neil Mikal always says this: if you get it right for dyslexia, you get it right for all. Yeah. And so schools began to buy Nessy for everyone, for all of the kids in the lower grades. And in studying the data, when we're watching what's happening in those schools, we know that those schools really get big gains, because we can see from our end what's happening in the data. We can see the kind of improvements that kids are making. And so when they put it in for everyone, they all make gains. Even the ones that are in like the Gifted Talented program make gains. Everybody does, because it's targeted to just them. Yeah. It gives them just what they need. And so those kids need a bigger challenge.
True. And I think it's important to point out too that Nessy's not expensive. It's quite reasonably priced for what it is. I mean, from the outside looking in, if you didn't know the things that we know, right, you would look at a program like this and you would go, gosh, that's probably thousands and thousands of dollars, but it's not. And that's part of what
$100 a year. Yeah. For like a mom to buy, or a parent, a family to buy, it's about $100 a year. I think. Yeah. And I'm trying to remember in my head how the currency conversion is.
Yeah, and I like the typing. I think I paid like $50 a year for the typing program.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
I'll call you offline because I'm having some technical issues with the typing program, so we've never actually used it.
Okay. Oh, okay.
But I keep
Yeah, call us, we'll fix
the subscription because it's so reasonably priced. And at one point, I do absolutely intend to use it to help my son learn how to type.
Yeah. Yeah, we can definitely call us. We'll figure it out. But and we've got a great team of ladies and gentlemen in the States that are really they would be in your own time zone as well, and they could certainly get you going right on the phone.
And
yes,
just to clarify, it's me having an ID 10T error. It's nothing to do with Nessy. All this, I know I'm doing something wrong. So I just want to call that out for everybody. Nessy's great. It's me.
We'll figure it out.
But I'm so glad that you shared that story with us. I mean, I've met you and I've met Mike in person, and just knowing his journey alone I always find that just so inspirational, and then once the Mikal film came out to see, I mean, I personally, I cried through that, especially the scene inside of the classroom. How did the idea for the film come out?
We were at a gala, a formal gala, and Pat was winning the British Dyslexia Association Lifetime Achievement Award.
Okay.
So we were at this gala for her to be presented with this award, and we were approached by a couple of guys that are dyslexics, businessmen and in the entertainment industry and things like that. And they because he's dyslexic himself, he's an author, a best-selling author. He approached us and said, we want to make a film about dyslexia. Can we talk to you about it? So Mike and I went and visited him and his partner in London, and we talked it through. And they had a great script writer called Malcolm McDuffie, and they interviewed Pat and Peter, and of course Mike. And Mike and I were on set during the entire filming, and would make suggestions about things. And Mike, it was very emotional for him because it brought back quite a lot of memories of childhood. Yeah. And the young actor was great. He was at the time he was performing in the show called Matilda. Okay. The West End, in London in the West End, which is like in the Broadway in the United States. He was on, so we had to film it. They had to be really careful with the schedule to get him in there, just in between his time at Matilda. So, and I thought he did a really great job, and he looked a lot like Mike as a boy.
He was absolutely adorable. I wanted to pull him out of the screen and adopt him. He was so cute. But yeah, I mean, I know I cried through the whole thing. I'll confess I couldn't get my son to watch it because it's still too raw for him, too close to home.
I understand. I have to say, I've cried. I've seen it, many times now, and I get teary every time. I actually did physically. I mean, I actually cried real tears the first time, and then after that, I get misty-eyed every time I see it, even though I've seen it many times, and it still affects Mike. And like when we've gone on speaking tours and it's playing in the audience, and when we're watching it, and then we have to speak right after that. We're both a little bit emotional after that. Because it's still a little raw for Mike. It's still you can see it in the audience that you could. What's one of the most fascinating things to do is to sit up on a stage or something and watch how the audience reacts, because you can see those parents in the audience. I mean, it is hitting them hard, and they are identifying with this. And you see people crying in the audience. And older children, you'll see it affecting older children as well. If they have some teenagers in there, they're getting emotional about it as well. So it's a story that really hits home for a lot of people, and that's sad that we've gone, now from the 70s to 2023, and it's still happening, and it's happening around the world. It's happening in the UK. It's happening in the United States. It's happening in Canada, Australia, New Zealand. It's still happening.
Mm-hmm. And that's one of the most tragic things about it is you think after this long, with as much as we know, with freedom of information across the internet as well, that you would think we would reach a more enlightened place when it comes to this, yet we're not. Our children are still vastly misunderstood, and I hope that there's not a single teacher out there that like is in the film that is ridiculing a child that's being forced to read out loud in front of a class. But even for as much remediation as my son has had, he even tells me, he's like, I can hear the nuance in how they speak to me versus how they speak
Mm-hmm.
to my classmates, that judgment against me because I have dyslexia.
Yeah, I completely get what he's saying, and that's something you forget how aware just like the kids are of their difference, but you see it in kindergarten classrooms. They go into kindergarten and they're happy and they're bouncing in the door and they're so excited, and then a month into kindergarten you start to see long faces, and then towards the end of kindergarten they realize something is different with them, something is going on, and they know it. They know that they're not learning to read the same way that their friends are, and they begin to feel, they just start feeling, their self-esteem starts to really suffer, and it starts really, really early. That's why getting the early intervention or getting the right kind of teaching from the get-go, because we want those kids to be bouncy and happy and want to go to school. I as a former kindergarten teacher, you don't see kids not wanting to go to school in kindergarten. I mean, it's pretty rare. There might be a few that have trouble separating from their parent or something, but really they're excited to be there, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and happy. And then you start to see them, the ones in classes where teachers maybe haven't had the benefit of knowing what to look for or how to address it, or having any knowledge of the differences, the way that dyslexics need to be taught. You start to see those kids dragging in, sad with long faces, and then the school avoidance starts. I don't want to go to school.
Yeah.
I have a stomach ache.
Yeah. I always, I think I wrote about it in a blog piece once, but I was like, culturally speaking, school is it's this thing. It's the Olympics that every kid gets to go to and participate in. It's this pantheon of, being a gateway to all the things, all the big dreams. Ask any 5-year-old, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a president. I want to be a princess. I want to be,
Yeah.
Education is the road to that. And it's emotional for me because I can still see my 5-year-old's transition from bright and eager and enthusiastic to, that 7-year-old boy that ended up slamming into the dyslexia wall. So it's hard.
Yeah. I love, Facebook's about the, if only, what is the book called? If only I'd known.
Yeah.
If only I had known.
Yeah.
Yeah. If only, there's so many parents that feel that way, and there's a lot of teachers that feel that way too.
Mm-hmm.
If only I had known, I would have done better. Not that you didn't do better, but I mean the teacher would have done better if he or she knew how to do better.
Definitely. And I have some of your books.
See?
I have some of your books. I should have already had them down. First, Dyslexia Explained.
Yeah.
So Mike wrote this one, and we're going to get to yours in a second, but when did Dyslexia Explained come out? And I recommend this book to everybody. And I can't remember who gave it to me. I've had it. It was a gift. I should remember who gave it to me, but it was a gift to me very early in our dyslexia journey. And I found this completely invaluable. So why? It's a stupid question, but I'm going to ask the question. Why did he write the book? What was, what, with everything that Mike has done and contributed to the community, what was he trying to achieve with the book?
Well, this is what he says. And so it was about, I'm trying to remember, maybe 2015. I'm guessing there. We'd have to look it up. But it might have been the first edition, 2014, 15, something like that. But there are lots of dyslexia books out there. Lots of really good dyslexia books out there. But many of them are quite verbose. Many of them are written for people with an interest in research and academics.
Mm-hmm.
Many or written for teachers with a deep knowledge of language literacy, linguistics, things like. So there are a lot of great books out there, but there weren't any books that were really simple, that really just got down to the nitty gritty and explained in really easy language what dyslexia is and what you can do to help. And he wanted one that not only adults could read, but you could share it with children.
Mm-hmm.
So, and hence the illustrations and so forth. So that's why he wrote it. He really wanted to just explain dyslexia in simple terms, without a lot of language that some won't want to hear. You're just really nuts and bolts, and then a way that you can also explain that to children. So that's why it's written so simply.
Right. Well, and I think it's important to call out that you can, like you just said, that, this is something that you can definitely share with children, because I see that being like one of the most commonly asked questions out there is, how do I talk to my young child about their dyslexia?
Right. And I think his was probably the first book out there that I know of, or one of the first that really was a book written specifically like that. So you could explain dyslexia to your children, to your child. Explain to them what it is.
Yeah.
There's such a sense of relief often, and maybe not in young children, but in older children that get diagnosed,
Mm-hmm.
and they realize, oh, it's not because I'm stupid. It's not because I'm not trying. It's not any, there is something going on, and we need to call it what it is.
Definitely. And then you, just a couple of years ago, came out with What I Need.
What I Need. And this was written specifically for children, to help them develop the courage and the words they need to self-advocate. So to tell their teachers what they need. This is what I need in the classroom to be successful in your class. These are the things that I need from you, because many teachers don't know. And I think we've discussed this before, is that teachers go into teaching because they love children and they want to help them, but teachers just don't know what to do. Not in general, but there are many teachers that haven't had the benefit of the type of even basic training they need to help our kids in the classroom. And so this is a way to encourage young kids to advocate for themselves and say, this is what I need.
Yeah.
So and there's a new book I'm writing, and it's what teachers need. So it's a follow-up to that book, but it's from a perspective of a teacher. This is what they need to help get what they need into their classrooms. And at the end of it, I'm going to profile some of because we do a contest every year called Teacher of the Year, mm-hmm. where we get these great submissions from all over the world. I mean, they come from everywhere. And some of these people, these men and women, are just absolutely brilliant. And these are teachers that they realize, oh gosh, I didn't learn this at university. I don't know what to do. And they have gone out of their way to learn and seek information and follow Facebook pages and read and go to movies and take classes. And then they take all that and they take it into their students, and just the difference in the students' lives that they're making is going to be generational. I mean, they're really keeping these kids, they're preserving their self-esteem, they're doing all these great things. So we give out, and we get all these great submissions, and then it goes to, Mike and I don't have anything to do with who gets picked. It goes to a board of people, professionals around the world, and they read all of them, and then they choose the teacher of the year. So at the end of this, what teachers need, I'm going to put some of those from the last few years, profile some of those, speak with their permission at the end, and really, because I think other teachers will find it inspirational to see kind of what these people have done. So, and there's another book too that Mike has just written, and his is almost completed. It's right at the end, because I was helping him giving him feedback yesterday. And I hadn't seen it. I mean, he's working on it, and sometimes we work together in the same room, so I know kind of he's working on it, but I hadn't seen it, and it's so good. It's so darn good. It is a step-by-step way it's like it's going to be like a reference book for teachers, written in the same style and illustrated by Leah, but it's how to teach reading. I mean, like step by step. Like,
wow.
And it sounded like a topic, because when he told me about it, I said, "Oh, Mike, lots of people have done it." I've never seen anyone do it the way he's done it. It's really good, and they can turn to a page and look up the rule for TION, SION, and the exceptions, and how do I do it? And so there's so many teachers that don't have that knowledge. I mean, they just weren't ever taught. They were taught in the whole language way, or Lucy Culkin's reading. That's the way they were taught. So they think that like kids just by osmosis, you put some books in their hands and whoo, voila, they're going to learn how to read. And we know that that's not how it works.
Right.
I mean, we know that's not how it works, but because of that, millions and millions of teachers that have never been taught.
Right.
This is how the English language works. This is, let's break it down first into letter sounds and blending and basic phonic rules and some, basic morphology. And this is how you do it step by step. And that's what he has. A really simple little book that a teacher can keep on their desk and pull it out and say, oh, well, this is how the magic rule works, and this is how you teach it, and this is how you apply it, and yeah, it's really good. I'm probably not doing it justice. I'm making it sound quite boring, but it's not boring at all. It's really good.
I don't think it sounds boring at all. When's the target publication?
It is so close. I think probably summer. It'll definitely come out by the fall when school is beginning, because I mean they're really close. He's working back and forth with Leah, the illustrator, and they're just doing some fine tuning.
Nice. Very nice.
His will be out very soon.
And I'm gonna do. I can't help it, but that's my little boy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Help it. It was such an exciting thing when he got chosen to be in your book, and such a sweet post that you did. The little video compilation that you did on Twitter was just so cute. But I wanted,
and kids read that book and are I really think it encourages them to see some of these other kids that experience the same kind of things that they do or they have done, and and are pursuing their passions, because that's important.
Yeah, definitely. But I want to be cognizant of your time, but there's two more really big Nessy things that I want to hit on. And the first is, and I'm not going to title it right, but I remember Lola sharing it on Facebook, of a different version of Nessy. Is it in a different language, or how the one for Africa?
Okay, so we have a couple of international things going on, and the one with Lola is we have a training course which is kind of a really basic dyslexia awareness, science of reading awareness 101. I mean, okay. It is not for specialist teachers. It's not for professors. It's for moms and dads and classroom teachers, or just the members of the public that just want to learn the basics of what dyslexia is. And we have that course that's available on our website. It's available in the American English language. It's about, because the phonics rules are sometimes a little different, spelling rules. It's available in the British English language and narrated, and then now we have one specifically for Africa. And we had Lola and helped work through that with us. And Lola actually has written, so it's on the project list. She has written a more advanced version of that, which is excellent. And it's going to offer a qualification for teachers to actually get a dyslexia qualification. So that's like the second level. But the one that's out now is kind of the one-on-one, just dyslexia aware. Now, because we're so passionate that we want teachers across the world to have this basic knowledge, in October every month, I give it away for free to any teacher anywhere in the world that wants to take the course, because it is so important to us to get this information out there. And we will again do that this year. And they can choose which version they want. They can choose the African version, the British version, or the North American language version and take the course. So yeah, that's what's going on with Lola. We also have Nessy available in Japan as well. Now, it's not in the Japanese language. It's in the English language, and it's for Japanese students that want to learn English, because teach phonics and spelling. That's what they need to do to learn English. And the Mikal movie has shown in Japan with the subtitles underneath, and we have a little bit of a Japanese instance of our website too, with some of the pages, because they don't really have a lot of resources in Japan. And we worked with a translator and probably one of the most eminent people in Japan for dyslexia advocacy, who's also a mother, and she's working with us in Japan, getting us out. They're trying. She wanted basic dyslexia information for the Japanese market, so we've got that there.
Very nice. And of course, we can't not talk about the Nessy Trust.
The Dyslexia Trust.
Yes.
Yeah. So that is Pat's charity, which Mike and I sit on the board of that charity, and she started it years ago. It's something we're very passionate about, and someday when Mike and I retire, we'll probably be doing that full time instead of doing what we're doing full time. But yes, it is. The trust is set up with a really specific goal, and it's either to train teachers to teach in a dyslexia-friendly way, or to provide scholarships to those kids whose parents can't afford to get them the dyslexia one-on-one tutoring. We feel passionate about all of those things. And I just wanted to mention one thing. I mentioned earlier my friend Neil Mikal, who's a renowned expert in Britain, and he's kind of known in Australia. I don't know if you know him. If you don't, you should meet him. He's a great guy. And he is partnering with us to do dyslexia-friendly school accreditation. So we are working towards that goal as well. So it's going to be a way for schools to submit. We do like a little dyslexia badge aware badge right now, but it's much more involved than that. And so schools will actually be qualified as dyslexia aware or dyslexia friendly by submitting test scores, having to put things in place and follow basic procedures like not making dyslexic kids copy off the board, having the things that dyslexic kids need, the teachers having some basic training, those kinds of things, and then they can get accredited as having that. So we're working with Neil on that accreditation program right now too. So that's the new thing.
And on a side note, I want to tell you, unfortunately, since 2020, my sense of time is completely blown. And so I can't tell you at what point over the last 3 years this happened. But I remember getting onto an event and you and Mike were talking, and Mike specifically talked about working memory, focusing on the piece of paper, looking up at the board, writing from the board. And I just remember sitting there having the biggest aha moment, because of course I knew about working memory, but just the way that he was describing it was so, I was like, okay, so here's my suggestion. Y'all need to film that and just put it out. Because his
Okay, I don't remember when it is, but I'll try to hunt it down.
but
Yeah.
yeah, I wish I could remember the exact event it was, but he was
Was
talking
it a
about
live event? Were you at a live event, or was it,
it.
you
It
were
was
there at the live event?
it was a live event. It was on the internet, but he was just talking about,
Okay,
his memories are, his focus is on the piece of paper, and how his focus has to leave to look up at the board and take in
yeah,
what's in the board, and then shifting the focus to look back down on the paper,
yeah.
trying to take in what the teacher is talking about, and how these are
Oh,
three very, and the act of writing, so maybe four very different conscious acts, and juggling that from a working memory perspective. It was just, it was an absolutely brilliant explanation of working memory, and that's something that I think would be powerful if it could be put out there in a way that just could be shared. And when you're having a conversation in an IEP meeting or a 504 meeting, and people are like, well, I don't really understand working memory. Well, here's a short little video that perfectly explains it. But I've been wanting to tell you since I wish I could remember exactly what it was, but I remember the background behind y'all was red, and it was both of you. And you were both sitting next to each other. So it's been sometime in the
okay.
last years. Sorry.
Years. I'll have to hunt that down. Have you seen the animated one that we have for working memory? We have an animated video.
I haven't.
Okay. Oh, okay. I'll see if I can get it's included in that dyslexia awareness course, but I don't think it's on YouTube or anything like that I can remember. But I'll hunt it down and send it to you, because I mean it's the same sort of information, but it's just in that sort of messy animated
Yeah.
way that we do things. So I'll send that to you after this. Yeah.
That'd be awesome. Thank you. But I've just been wanting to tell you since I saw that speech. And of course, being a mom, as soon as this ends, somebody's going to walk in here and I'm going to be off doing like
Yeah.
I'm going to completely forget.
Yes, that's just the way it goes.
I start my day with the best of intentions, and if I get even one of those things done,
That's pretty good. If you get one done, that's pretty good.
pretty much. But so you've got Chris, the work with Chris coming out, and that's the fall, right?
Yes, we're shooting for an October 1st release date. We
Okay.
have that coming, and we have the Neil Mikal dyslexia accreditation program hopefully around that time as well. So both of those things are new, and we also have other things new as well. We've got things that are maybe not as exciting to talk about, but the tools for teachers. We're going to have a phone app so that they can check their kids' progress and scores, and make changes to curriculum and things like that right from their phone. So those kinds of things are coming out too.
Wow. Y'all are very busy. How do you get everything done?
We have a great team. We have a wonderful team. Mike and I have now moved to a position of directorship, so we're on the board. We're still working in the company, but we have a CEO because we needed somebody to help us out. So we have a great CEO, and we have a great team of people, and a lot of we have lots of educators on our team. Like our CEO Sean is an educator, and then we have a lot of dyslexic people on our team, or people that have dyslexic children or grandchildren. So they really have a heart for what we do.
Well, thank you for quite literally y'all's commitment to the community and everything that y'all do. I know so many of my friends have used Nessy with their children, even supplementing,
Yeah, you can supplement. Yeah.
the instruction that their children may or may not be getting in their local school district. in public education here in the States. And but and the books, but y'all, I mean, you both have a dedication and a commitment to putting out a very positive message as well, and just trying to create resources from as much of a positive light as you can. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. It's definitely something that we feel very strongly about and we're very passionate about. We've been putting, I know we need to go, but lots of free resources on our website because we want people to have access to them. So there are lots of things there now. There's lots of printables and games and free things on that teachers can use. But teachers that say, well, we just don't have anything to help our dyslexic kids. Well, they're free. We put them up there, so use them. We've got them there, so
yeah,
we really are committed.
And that's important to call out, you know, how much you do put out for free, but how cost effective, you know, it takes money to access some of the things which is in our community, but being able to keep Nessy as low cost as y'all do, I think is huge as well. But being cognizant of the time and everything that y'all have going on, and it's nighttime for you. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I'm so happy that you were able to come on and chat with me for a little while and that I get to see you again. It's been way too long since I got to see you. So
It has been. Well, thank you very much for having me. Enjoyed it very much. And I'm going to track down that working memory video, send it to you. You can share it. If I send it to you, you can share it on social if you want to. Even though it's embedded in a program, you can have it and just share it and use it however you wish. If you think it'll be helpful in an IEP meeting,
I
definitely
would. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, to me, just information like that is, you know, those bit, and I'll link to it on my website with your permission, but I mean, just those things that parents can access and have at their fingertips to be able to address questions, that helps to go so much further, I think, to empower the parent when they're in these situations in order to better advocate for their children. So that would be awesome.
Yeah, it's very, we've consciously made the website very parent friendly with lots of things just for that. So yes, definitely you're free to link to it, and parents can have access.
Definitely. Thank you. Well, everybody, thank you for joining us today, and have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are.
Bye.